Welcome into this edition of the Kansas City Chiefs Report, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. A special edition of today's program coming at you from my lovely home as we got the chance to sit down with David Alexander, former Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman, close friend of mine. He coaches high school football in the state of Oklahoma, and we got a fascinating chat breaking down every single angle of Super Bowl 59. You're going to enjoy this conversation coming up in just a bit. Before we do, want to make sure you guys subscribe to the Kansas City Chiefs Report as we bring you daily Chiefs coverage. We're going to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. We'll have all sorts of content coming at you from Super Bowl week. If you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you got to hop on board and subscribe now for the latest happenings on your favorite team throughout the Super Bowl and into the offseason as well. Subscribe now for free. You'll be glad you did. Now, let's hear from David Alexander on the Chiefs and Eagles Super Bowl matchup. Join us now on the program this week. Please do welcome in former Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman, also spent some time with the New York Jets. It is David Alexander who joins us on the program this week. DA, we started the season talking to you about the teams that could potentially be here. Now we're fast forward to the month of February, and it's your Philadelphia Eagles, my Kansas City Chiefs, going up head-to-head in New Orleans. What a terrific matchup. How excited are you for this one, man?
Hey, brother, man, this is awesome, right? I'm super excited, obviously, right? Have the Eagles in there. It's been a great season. The storylines, and you've probably got the two best teams, right? The two teams that have played the best over the biggest majority of the season. Obviously, the Chiefs started off super hot and continued to win, almost every game all year. And the Eagles, after about week 6, really, really caught fire, and they've been a great, the best team in the NFC since then. So it's fitting. It's always good when everybody thinks the two best teams are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree, and I think these are the two best teams this season
Right.
on both sides, from the AFC and the NFC. There, DA, the Eagles, the rematch, right? These two teams met in
Right.
this same game 2 years ago. Close game, fantastic
And,
battle. Jalen
yeah.
Hurts had an all-time performance, and it wasn't quite enough. The Chiefs found a way to get it done. How much do you think that game is on the minds, revenge and all? Is that a big factor for
Well,
this team?
well, it's not the word revenge. I don't think is the word that is the right word. I think there's motivation, right? It's the ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl. You want to be respected in the league, and then as an individual, and then you want to be respected for the teams you played on and the things your team was able to do. And if you can go win a Super Bowl, right, it etches your name into history. The Eagles, they should have a chip on their shoulder. They've got they might have the best roster, Tyler, of the two teams. I mean, overall, from the number 1 to 47, they might.
I thought they did 2 years ago too.
Yeah, and so I think they just the motivation from playing so well, doing so well, being so close, might give them just a little bit of the edge to start the game. Now, it won't carry them through all 60 minutes, but it might give them a little edge to start the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Both these teams, I think, are playing with an edge. You mentioned Philadelphia's side of things. Kansas City, they've heard it all year long of all the doubters saying that, they're frauds and that they're lucky and they officiating going their direction. Mahomes gets snubbed of the Pro Bowl and all this. Like, they're playing with a chip on their shoulders as well. I would imagine both these teams are going to come out with some fire to them.
Well, it's amazing to me that anybody would say any of that stuff about Kansas City, right? You're right. The newspapers or the talking heads on TV are giving Kansas City motivation. They're the champ. They're the two-time champ, right? Respect them until they're not the champion anymore. And right, been talking about they're not playing good. Mahomes is not having as good a year. They're only winning, because the refs are helping and they're winning all these close games. Well, you know what? The only stat that matters is the W's, and they are a great football team. Obviously Patrick Mahomes gets all the headlines, and deservedly he deserves a fair portion of them, but their defense is fantastic as well. The matchups of the two lines, the two offensive and defensive lines, is going to be the story of the football game.
Yeah, I think so. And let's look at Philly first. The injuries to Jurgens and Dickerson. It sounds like both of them are going to play, but are they going to be 100%?
Right,
Probably not.
right.
With that said, we know that their offensive line's been so good. Number one, according to Pro Football Focus this season, they run the ball so well. How much of that you think is going to be a factor of those guys not being at their full strength necessarily?
Well, it will be a factor, obviously, Tyler, and that's kind of stinks, right? You want both teams going in healthy. Let's go play for 60 minutes or two overtimes, and let's see who the best team is. The extra week off between the championship games and the Super Bowl is going to help, right? How much that helps, we won't know. You and I will never know until midway through the game. But hopefully, one of those guys will get really close to 100%, and the other guy will get somewhere as close as he can to 100%, and they're able to make it through the game healthy, right? And that way we can. Because if they don't have both of those guys, Chris Jones is going to find the weak link. But if they have both those guys and they're able to double team Chris Jones and still able to run the football, man, it's going to be a great football game.
I'm amazed, DA, when I look at this Eagles offensive line. They had some major question marks of losing Jason Kelce, arguably the greatest center to ever play this game, and what they were going to do to replace him. And the fact that they've adjusted
Yeah,
so well and they didn't lose a beat, losing an all-time player here. I mean, credit to Howie Roseman, one of the
right,
best teams in football. Nick Sirianni
right.
doing a great job. I mean, they made something out of nothing here. Lane Johnson, I think, doesn't get enough credit too. I mean, they got a
Oh,
fantastic group.
they have a fantastic group. Obviously that's where my eyes go when I'm watching any football game. But to watch the Eagles offensive line play, they move defensive linemen from the NFL farther and wider than any offensive line I've seen play in a long, long time. They really dent every defense they play. And then they're handed it to a guy that's exploiting all these giant holes they're building. To your point about Jason Kelce and replacing him, that's almost an impossible thing to do at any position. But to replace a future Hall of Fame offensive lineman with another guy that's come in there and has made the Pro Bowl and played, had a fantastic season is pretty remarkable.
We'll have more from David Alexander coming up in just a moment. But first, let's tell you about today's sponsor. That is Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose two or more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS, and they will give you $50 to play for free when you play $5. You don't even have to win to get the money. And on top of that, Prize Picks, right now, they are giving you up to 1,000 times your money, folks. The big game is almost here. It's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the big game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes will only need to throw 1 yard to win. If you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you can win real cash. Obviously, I got to take Mahomes on Prize Picks. I'm also pairing that up with Saquon Barkley to have more than half a rushing or receiving touchdown as well. You can play along with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs Report. And now more from David Alexander. When you look at Kansas City's offensive line on their side of things, the interior as good as any interior in the league when you talk Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith. And they had some problems at that left tackle position, moved Joe Tooney over the left tackle spot, and that's been a good short-term solution. But they're still not necessarily running the ball great.
No,
Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, solid backs. Pacheco hasn't looked the same since coming back from injury. 2 weeks off and everything. Sounds like they're going to stick with Tooney at the left tackle position.
Right.
You think Kansas City against this tough Eagles defense can finally get that run game going?
Well, I don't know about getting the run game going as far as being able to sustain and make chunk plays and get explosive plays in the run game. Two things about that. I want to talk about Tooney. That is such an underwritten about story, right? An interior guy, his whole career, jumping out there to left tackle, playing left tackle, playing offensive tackle compared to playing center and guard is like being one on Mars and one on Venus, right? They're completely different worlds. And so him going out there and solidifying the offensive line and playing fantastic is a major credit to him. But as far as running the ball for the team, the Kansas City team, they don't have to run the ball super, super effectively. They just have to run the ball well enough that they don't abandon it. Just make sure that Philadelphia is playing the run. They just hand it off enough to make Philadelphia play honest defense. Then the run game helps them, right? Then the pass game is what it always should be for Patrick, right? The coverages are always the same, and he'll understand what the game plan is by halftime. So if Kansas City can run the ball just a little bit and keep Philadelphia honest, right? Then it'll be really tough on the Eagles defense to contain Mahomes.
DA, I feel like when I look at this Kansas City team, that obviously the number one goal for Patrick Mahomes is get the ball to Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce, of course, has been so good in the postseason over the years, and I imagine he's going to step up. But with the attention that's going to be on Travis Kelce in this game, as we've seen all season long for the last couple of years, it's going to be Andy having to be creative of getting everyone else involved, whether it's
Right.
the receivers like D Hop, Juju, Hollywood, Xavier Worthy, Noah Gray, or the run game for that matter, to take that attention off from Travis Kelce. That's where I look at your number one objective: get the ball to Kelce, but you got to do other things first to allow that to happen, right?
Yes, of course you do, and they're going to look to Travis Kelce first. Just the chemistry between the quarterback and the tight end there. I mean, the chemistry is amazing. You hear the old NFL films mic'd up, between Kelce and Mahomes talking back and forth. It's really kind of just beyond cerebral. It's to another level for NFL players. I'm sure Philadelphia Eagles will look at the Buffalo Bills. They're the team that's had the best game plan, right, for limiting what Kelce can do. And defensive game plans don't always match up between coordinators, but they will take some nuggets from what they saw Buffalo do to Travis.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. With Philadelphia, we know they can run the football well. Saquon's been so good, but the passing game, they got some great receivers. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at AJ Brown. I know he went through a little bit of a lull, but he bounced back in the NFC Championship. Devonta Smith's been solid. Goddard's been good at the tight end spot. And there was questions about Jalen's health. I felt like DA that he answered those questions with that performance in the NFC Championship game. I think he's fine, and I expect their passing game to be fine. But the Chiefs, they have a pretty good secondary
Yeah.
themselves. And getting
Yeah.
Jalen Watson back a couple weeks ago, he's at full strength. It's I think there's opportunities to pass the football, and I believe in Jalen's abilities, but I do think it will be a challenge just how good that Chiefs defense is.
I do have also. I'm with you, Tyler. I have confidence in Jalen's abilities. When he first got to Philadelphia, you and I talked about the leadership and the things that comes out of his mouth are just gold. They're just golden. He just says all the right things all the time. But his play on the field just keeps getting better. His accuracy, his arm talent is getting better. And once they got Devontae Smith, right now they've got a guy on each side of the field that can make plays with the football in their hands, right? And then Goddard in the middle. He's taking up the middle of the field and doing things not quite to the Travis Kelce-esque, but teams that play Philadelphia have to defend everything. They've got to defend the sidelines with the receivers. They got to defend Saquon running the ball and Jalen pulling the ball going the other direction. So it's a tough task for any defense. Tough task. That's why Philadelphia's in the Super Bowl right now.
Do you think Jalen Hurts needs to straight up outplay Patrick Mahomes? Is this a quarterback battle, or can Saquon do enough to take the pressure off Jalen to an extent?
Well, Saquon could definitely take do enough to take off some of the heat off Jalen. Now, this is a Super Bowl, and there's going to be some times in the game when it's 3rd and 11, and right, Jalen's got to make a play with his arm. But Saquon and the offensive line have had such a good year. Their game plan, Kansas City's game plan, is going to be stop the run first. Both Saquon and Jalen running the football. That's where it's going to. If they don't stop the run, then Philadelphia will do what they want and control the clock. So, but Jalen's going to make plays. I believe in him. I believe in the things that he says, and I believe his play. The stuff he's putting on film has been really, really amazing.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. Former Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman David Alexander joining us here on the program this week. DA Patrick Mahomes, it wasn't his best year statistically speaking, but the revolving door at the receiving core, he really turned it on the second half of the season, has done a much better job of taking care of the football. And time again, when they need a play, when they need something to happen, AFC Championship game, great example of this. He finds a way to come through. If I'm Philadelphia, DA, I'm thinking I don't want to give Mahomes the ball with 4 minutes to go because they're going to find a way
No,
to win this football game. Like,
right.
I mean, he's just so good in these spots. I would even say that, in these biggest of games like the Super Bowl, we see him even at his best, which is so rare for a player at that position.
It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it, Tyler? Watching him every time they're in a close game, him finding a way to make the right play at the right time. And sometimes it's pulling the ball down and running for an 8-yard first down. He just seems to make the right play every time. And I just keep getting amazed. I just keep getting amazed, Tyler. We are watching greatness. We're all lucky to be football fans right now and watching his career. And you can't give Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes the football with 4 minutes left in the game unless you've got a three score lead. I mean, you're not going to be comfortable until the final second runs off the clock, because if he gets a chance to have the football, he's going to find a way to score and beat you.
Yeah, he's something else for sure. The coaching matchup. Let me start with Andy Reid. You saw firsthand what he did in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
becoming their all-time winningest coach, and now here he is in Kansas City. 3 Super Bowls, their all-time winningest coach, 301 career wins. What makes this guy so special? What makes him so good? I'm looking at that Bills game, and they were doing things we've never even seen, let alone all year, ever, of plays that they had
Right.
called and new tricks up their sleeve here. I mean, it has got to be incredibly difficult to game plan against this guy because they don't show everything on film. You don't know
Right.
what they're going to do next.
Well, it's impossible to prepare completely for a team with the coaching staff that Andy Reid and the players that they have put together. Andy Reid, obviously, he makes great connections, individual connections with his players, but because they all love him and they all play extremely hard, he sets the expectation level for the team at being at greatness. And then he holds himself and his coaching staff to the same standard. And he has obviously been able to build a very flexible playbook. And they, like you said, they can put together anything at any time. They can go to the sidelines and scribble something down and go out and execute it, which is almost impossible without some practice time. But time and time again, the Chiefs have proven that they could do it.
Yeah, it's amazing to say the least. And with Spags on that defensive side, what he's doing, Andy lets him do his thing and has really just taken off with this defense and what they're able to do in a variety of different ways, whether it's stopping the run, the pass rush, the coverage here. Spags, I feel like DA doesn't get enough credit for what he's doing on that side of the ball. He ought to be in the Hall of Fame conversation just as a coordinator, I think.
Yeah, and it's he does deserve a lot more talk, right? A lot more accolades. But the flash of the offense, has kind of shadowed it. But during the playoff run, I have started to hear the announcers on TV, the color guys, talking about Spags and the blitz packages and the things they're doing defensively to disrupt the other offense's rhythm. And so I'm with you. I think that the national media has, okay, look at this, right? Mahomes didn't have his greatest year. Why are they winning? And then they start analyzing the whole game plan and seeing that the defense has really, really shined. And Spagnuolo is the reason all that stuff's happening.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for Philly, about this time a year ago, there was a lot of people calling for Nick Sirianni's head, which I thought was ridiculous at the time. And now here we are, 4 straight seasons of winning seasons for him, and his second Super Bowl appearance. Some people don't like his attitude, say he's a bit cocky and all that, whatever it may be. Say what you want about his attitude, DA.
Right.
He feels like a Philly guy. He seems like that he fits in that culture and that fan base, and he keeps on winning, and he's looking like one of the best offensive minds in football. I think Sirianni's doing a fantastic job. What do you make of Nick Sirianni here?
I know as coaching, he is doing a fantastic job, right? He has built a rapport with Jalen Hurts. There was rumors that they weren't getting along last year, right, when they had that losing season, losing streak and all that stuff. But that's also obviously just some media narrative to try to explain why they lost some games. Could he polish some of his rough corners? Sure. Should he go back to the bleachers and yell at fans? Probably not. But again, just like we talked about Jalen Hurts. He is putting up W's. He has got those NFL teams. They've all got big egos. There's players that have got big egos, and he's handled the room, and he's got the guys to play hard, and he's winning football games, and that what he's done is impossible to do. It's an impossible job, right? And we think Andy Reid does it perfectly and it's easy, but it's not. It's an impossible job that only a very few special people can do. And to get a team to the Super Bowl twice in 3 years, pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're absolutely right about that. David Alexander, former Philadelphia Eagles offensive lineman, joining us here on the program. DA, if you had to give me an X factor for each team, a player that typically doesn't always step up necessarily, who do you think could have a big game for either side and be the difference here?
Oh, wow. Great question, Tyler. Um, well, I think the two defensive tackles for Philadelphia, right? The two guys from Georgia. Well, I know they've got more guys from Georgia, but the two big defensive tackles from
Jalen Carter.
yeah, and yeah, those two guys are massive human beings, and they cause train wrecks. If they can, up the middle pressure is the only thing that even has a chance to slowing down Patrick Mahomes, right? Now when he scrambles to his right, he's going to find guys and make plays, but you can't let him stand in the pocket. So that's not a surprise pick, probably those two defensive tackles for Philadelphia. But if they want to even hold Kansas City to 21, 24 points, those two guys have got to be 60 minutes of just absolute train wrecks on the Kansas City offensive line. For Kansas City, it's not a surprise either. You brought up all these names, but Worthy and Hollywood Brown and those guys, they have to make plays on 3rd and 5 or 6 that are Kelce's usual time to make plays. I just can't imagine if Kelce's catching the ball wide open. then Kansas City wins easy. So I just have to believe they're going to try to take Kelce away like Buffalo did and make those guys on the outside make plays. So if you see Brown with 6 catches and Worthy with 6 catches or 7 catches, and and all those guys, if all 4 of those guys have 6, 8 catches, then they're probably going to win the football game.
I was thinking about this, Da. You've obviously coached in Oklahoma and the Tulsa area for a long time now, and we hear offensive coaches say that, hey, the trends start in high school, they go to college, then they go to the NFL. And for years, we heard about these Big 12 spread offenses and these Big 12 quarterbacks. They're not made for the NFL game. That they pro style offenses
Right.
for them. And here we are, third straight year now of the old Big 12, including Oklahoma and Texas.
Right.
We got Big 12 quarterbacks represent both teams with
Right.
Jalen Hurts and Mahomes this time. Last time you had Mahomes and Purdy, and the time before that you had Mahomes and Jalen Hurts as well. I know that you've sent a lot of players to the Big 12 conference that you've
Right.
coached and such. I would think this probably puts a smile on your face to see that, hey, we knew what we were doing. We were right about these Big 12 quarterbacks. They're some of the best in the league here.
Well, yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, and it is pretty cool that these guys are coming from our neck of the woods, and we got to see them play. You know, there is no perfect offense or defense. I don't know, well, maybe except Kansas City's right now, but there's no perfect offense, right? I don't care if you run the ball 60 times or throw the ball 60 times. In college, right? It's about development, and if both those guys threw the ball a bunch and spread offenses, and they were able to grow and play. They both played a ton of football games. I think, and Purdy as well. I think that's a bigger factor than almost anything else. Playing 50 games of college football, right, instead of 12, right, and then going. And when you play 50 games of college football and you're throwing it 30 times a game and seeing all those blitzes and all those coverages and avoiding rush, I think it just slows your mind down, right? It slows, you can watch Purdy and the game is slow. You brought him up, you watch Jalen and the game is just slow. And you watch Mahomes and everybody else is almost at a dead stop for Mahomes and he's playing really, really fast. So, putting those quarterbacks out there here in the Big 12, it is a bit of a pride for us, isn't it, Tyler? Right? It's a little bit of a pride for us, right?
Definitely
Yeah.
so. I love it, and even with OU and Texas leaving the league, like seeing Jalen up there and everything,
Right.
certainly does us proud and great to see it. Hopefully, there's more of them to come in the future. We mentioned with you being a former Eagles guy, I imagine I have a pretty good idea who you're rooting for in this game. What would it mean to Philadelphia and the Eagles faithful to get a Super Bowl title potentially? I know that they got the one, what was it, 7 years ago with Nick Foles
Right.
and company, but this has been a program, DA, that has been very good now since Andy Reid was there, the last 20 plus years, but kept coming up short, whether it was an NFC championship or losing a Super Bowl
Right.
like last year, whatever. They've been very good, but other than that one Super Bowl, they've come up just short. I would imagine that this would be a pretty big deal for Philly if they can pull this off.
It is a big deal. It's a big deal for that region, right? The Delaware Valley region. The fans up there, right? They get a bad rap, but there's no fan base, right? That even people that don't even go to the games, that it affects them, right? Positively and negatively when the Eagles win or lose, and they love their Eagles. They worship the games. And it would be a very, very big deal for the fan base in the Delaware Valley up there if Philadelphia could win it. And then the Eagles have been great, right? They've had great players. Borderline Hall of Fame player Donovan McNabb. Wasn't able to win one, and so to go win, carry that trophy around, and celebrate all the ex-players, because we're all rooting for them too. Donovan McNabb's going to be sitting on his couch rooting for the Eagles as well. So it's a big deal, that area and all the ex-players. It's a lot of fun.
Do you have any interesting interactions or anything that came to mind in your experience with Eagles fans when you were up there?
Oh my gosh, Tyler, we don't. That's a whole other show. Um, that's a whole nother show talking about interactions with the fans. The first thing that pops into my head, my rookie year was the 1987 strike. And I was a kid from Oklahoma. I had never been east of the Mississippi, and we were up there for a couple of weeks, and then went on strike. And uh, it was a at every other place. It was a big deal. The players on strike. They brought in replacement players, and fans came to the games, and it kind of went on as normal. The product on the field wasn't as good, but everything, all the other stuff was kind of normal. In Philadelphia, it was not normal. Okay, so my interaction with the fans, but all the local unions, when there was a replacement game at home, the local unions circled the stadium in semi trailers, bumper to bumper, and at every gate there was a group of pipe, the local, 113th pipe fitters at this gate, and at this gate the local 575 Teamsters, and over here, the shipyard guys, and they. I wouldn't say they weren't allowing anybody in the game, but they pretty much weren't allowing anybody in the game. I think that first replacement game in Philadelphia in 1987, I think it had 5,000 to 6,000 people there.
Wow. And that was a testament really to just how great of fans they were. They wanted you guys back, if
That's
anything.
right. They wanted our guys back. And, Buddy Ryan said, because he knew what it was like in Philadelphia, he's like, no, none of you guys are allowed to cross the picket line. Either you all come in or you all stay out. Because other places, you remember I don't know if you remember, you weren't around, Tyler, you were too young, but
Yeah.
right, Dallas Cowboys, all the stars kind of crossed the picket lines. Randy White and Danny White and Tony Dorsett, they all crossed the picket line to go play. But in Philadelphia, nobody crossed the picket line. All the players stayed out the whole time. There's a strike.
That's great. Before we go, last thing, who wins this game? How do you think this all plays out, DA?
Yeah, well, obviously, I've got to pick the Eagles, and I'm going to have to pick it in a low scoring game. I think if the Eagles are going to win, it's going to have to be in the 20s. So I'm going to say 27-21,
Okay.
Philadelphia.
27-21. Holding the Chiefs to just 21 points. That would be something if that
That
happened.
would be crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably the only way they win, though.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it has to be convincing. I think they have to start fast and
Right,
basically just not give up the lead. Can't give Mahomes the ball with 4 minutes left and
right,
let him do his thing. Real quick, too, DA, obviously you guys just finished up another high school season there in Sapulpa, and obviously got some great football
right.
in the area in the state of Oklahoma. Tell me about how things are going, and I know that it's got to be an interesting time with the recruiting front as well, with these college programs having to cut down their scholarship numbers and all that's got to
Right,
affect the players you can send up there. And now we're
right.
hearing stuff about JUCO years not counting. You just want to give your players a chance to go play.
Well, first thing about Sepulpa, we've done some things the last 2 years that haven't been done at Sepulpa in 40, 50 years. We actually won a home playoff game. Um, Sepulpa hasn't hosted a playoff game in since 2004, and they hadn't won a home playoff game since like the 70s. And so we were able to win a home playoff game this year. It's a big deal for
Oh
the,
yeah.
the community. The high school recruiting, it breaks your heart right now. The way that the portal has affected high school recruiting is, golly, it's just as high school coaches and high school players, we're still trying to adjust to it. Um, and you briefly mentioned, the JUCO years aren't counting, and so high school players are going to have to just go in with the reality. I'm not going to get to sign with the North Texases and the Tulsas and the Louisiana Techs. I'm going to have to go JUCO, right, or go D2 and play 2 years and be all conference, and then I can go sign with a Division I school. Um, unless you're a 5-star guy that's good enough to go to a Power Four conference school, right, or a top half of Power Four conference schools, those scholarships are just drying up. We don't see 20% of the college recruiters that we used to see 5 years ago. Because they're all recruiting portal guys, and they're also recruiting their own roster every day,
Yeah.
trying to keep their guys from getting in the portal and going somewhere. So, the high school kids, and it's rude. It's a rude awakening, because for years we kind of figured out how to get our guys scholarships someplace, a Division II somewhere, or JUCO, or a mid-level Division I school, a group of 5 school, and those places are few and far between. And the colleges, for the universities, excuse me, for a few years were ashamed to even mention it, but now they just come out and tell you, yeah, we're only going to sign 5 or 6 high school kids this year. And it just is like, wow, we've still got some adjustment to do. There's still some growing for high school coaches and high school players on how to navigate this.
Yeah, it's uncharted territory. I hate it, but hopefully we can see some positive change potentially and see these kids get a chance somewhere when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
DA, appreciate the time. Best of luck to your Eagles, although I'll be
I know.
obviously rooting for the Chiefs, but
That's right. It's great, dude. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure when we get a chance to chat, my friend. We'll talk in down the line.
All right, Tyler. Thanks, buddy.